Hamish Marshall is a master of the political art of persuasion, especially when it comes to using data to win elections. He became friends with Andrew Scheer when both were junior Conservative staffers on the Hill almost 20 years ago. Scheer working for Alliance leader Preston Manning, Marshall campaigning for future cabinet minister John Baird. Marshall caught the political bug and then went to Oxford for a quick MBA and discovered his other passion, statistics. By 2006, he was back in Ottawa, the head of strategic planning for Stephen Harper. And he says he helped Harper win the 2008 election by using data to target voters.
There's things that matter in people's lives that impact how they're going to vote, whether they're married, when after they get married, they get divorced. Interesting fact, Conservatives do well with married people in their 40s.
So Marshall was a backroom boy who became more famous as a former director of Ezra Levant's Rebel Media. During Marshall's time there, Rebel was home to controversial people like Faith Goldie. In 2015, Marshall told the National Observer that he wasn't involved in editorial decisions, that again, his focus was data. On this data platform, Nation Builder, we found a post where Marshall was boasting about how he'd helped Rebel set up a membership database, a crowdfunding system, and custom apps for sharing messages by email. The post had been deleted, but after some poking around, we were able to retrieve it. Since then, Marshall and Scheer cut ties with Rebel after its coverage of Charlottesville. 2 years ago, Marshall helped Scheer win the leadership in a squeaker of a vote, and now he's back running his old friend's election campaign. The data expert who knows how to use voter intel to win. Joining me from Vancouver to talk about all this is Jordan Bateman. He led a successful anti-tax campaign with Hamish Marshall and co-authored a book with him about their strategy called Everyone But the People. So, Jordan, all of the parties have data people. Is there something special, though, about Hamish Marshall?
Well, Hamish is just about the most intelligent person you're ever going to meet, but he doesn't come off that way. You know how some people feel like they're the smartest people in the room and want you to know it? Hamish is kind of the opposite. He's quiet, he's brilliant, but because of his experience as a pollster, he understands how to take big kind of intellectual ideas and put them into the language of common people, the everyday tongue as we call it. So he's very gifted at being able to marry that strategy and those communications terms with real retail politics.
So he fell in love with statistics. He's a numbers guy. We're looking at the campaign now, so much talk of crime, of affordability, all of these issues. Is that because the numbers are telling him that's what people want to hear? Like, how do the numbers play in?
Well, take climate change, for example. There was a poll this week that came out, and something like 3/4 of Canadians want to address climate change, but 3/4 of Canadians don't want to spend an extra nickel to do it. And the reason why is, they're broke. They feel like they're spending enough money in taxes and other things that they don't want to spend anymore to address this issue. So Hamish has gone out and helped the Conservatives craft a plan and an idea on how to address climate change through technology instead of taxes. And they'll be using that message over and over again in the coming weeks. So, he'll look at those numbers, he'll figure out what Canadians are thinking, how that correlates with the ideas that will actually make Canada better, and then link those two in the voter's mind when they go to the ballot box.
So many Canadians, me included, got one of those texts saying, "Hi, it's Sarah from the Conservative Party." I mean, are those things all driven by numbers?
Well, it's certainly driven by wanting to identify your vote, and I got two. I got one from the NDP as well. It's an important part. Look, identifying your vote, knowing where they are, knowing who's going to support you is absolutely the fundamental bedrock of any political party out there. The Conservatives pre-writ knocked on probably millions of doors, finding out early on, who would be susceptible, who would be open, who would be interested in a Conservative message. You can bet they're concentrating their resources on those people and on those swing voters, and trying to figure out how to get them out on election day. So absolutely, the numbers everything comes down to numbers in politics. It comes down to lists and numbers and making sure that your people get out and vote, and making sure that you're trying to broaden your coalition as much as possible so that you have enough Canadians to put you in office.
So the polls now, they're up, they're down, it's really tight. Who's going to win?
Well, I don't bet against Hamish. That's my motto in life. I've yet to see him lose a race, and I think he's got them in a good spot. Their vote is much more secure than the other parties' votes. One thing Hamish will look at is the numbers of who's going to walk over broken glass to get out and vote on election day to vote for their candidate. Conservative voters are motivated in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. I think that gives him a very strong base to start from.